When I decided to go to Ranger School, that was when I was a cadet at West Point. I wanted to go, and I learned more about it. But the problem is that they were standing up so many people for the for the 7th Infantry Division Light at Fort Ord, Monterey, California, that there's just no, unless you were going to Fort Ord, you were not getting a Ranger School slot. Uh, and that was very, very frustrating. So I went away to my first tour, and I came back for my second tour, and they the people at Fort Sill said, okay, anybody who thinks they want to go to Ranger School, please raise your hand. Okay, after this meeting, all of you come over here and meet, and we'll meet together and we'll explain the realities to you of where we're at and what we're doing. Well, the realities were that there were so many field artillery guys who wanted to go to Ranger School because they wanted the tab, but they weren't really ready to do the hard work that it took to get into Ranger School. And by having some type of board, we students, officers would go through the training, 6 months of training, and then the training brigade commander, the training brigade command sergeant major, the battalion commander, the battalion, command sergeant major, the training company, and the training company first sergeant were all part of this panel. And so we went through 6 months of training, which were pretty arduous. They got somebody who had gone to Ranger School, and he was a kind of a demented personality, but he really wanted to make sure that we were properly trained. And so we would train and train and train and train and train, and then that was that. So so for 6 months, Monday through Friday, we would do Ranger PT, and we would finalize that with a Ranger run, and it was hard. Fortunately, I was a runner, and but a lot of people struggled with running. And one of the intense parts about Ranger School is that when you run, you have to run practically on top of the person who's running in front of you. If you leave too much space between you and the guy in front of you, one of the Ranger instructors will point you out and say, out, meaning you've fallen too far behind, and you're not even really out, but they'll call you out, and it's just very, very frustrating. So at the end of my 6 months there were 4 of us who were in the advanced course who were interested in going, and there were, I don't know, like 30 lieutenants who wanted to go. Anyway, so we went through all the training that we needed to go through, and all of us from the advanced course, we had really put in a lot of time and a lot of effort to going to Ranger School. Well, the day came when we were in front of the brigade commander and everything, and to be honest, I don't know about anybody else, but I recognized that there was only one opinion that really mattered on that board, and that was that 06 colonel, training brigade command level person. And we would go in one at a time, and we'd be interviewed, and then they would talk for a little bit. They'd call you back in and let you, tell you, what their thoughts were. And so I went in for my interview, and the main, as people were talking, and this brigade commander, he said, I really don't see the need for you to go. I mean, you've had a very successful career so far, and you could easily be a very, very successful officer, a field artillery officer, without having to go through Ranger School. So why is it that you want to go to Ranger School? And I explained, I wanted to be Ranger qualified, and that was something that was really important to me, that I just put a lot of time and effort into being Ranger School qualified, and I just tried to explain it, right? And that brigade commander, he pushed back a little bit. He says, I just don't see the need. And I said, well, sir, this is something that I've always wanted to do. This is like, I've really spent a lot of time and a lot of effort preparing myself physically, but also mentally. And again, he said, I'm, I just don't think so. I don't really see, the need or the benefit to the Army or anything like that. And the more he pushed, the more angry I got because I could feel it slipping through my hands. I mean, it's not like they were going to be able to save that much money and for me to go or something like that. No, this is just, I wanted to go, and I mean, I really, really wanted to go, and I just didn't see it happening. So as we went through this dialogue, I got to the point where I was about ready for him to say, yeah, I don't think we need to send you. You're not going to go. And had he said those words, I I was about ready to like bolt up from my chair and walk up to him and tell him, I'm not asking you, sir. I'm telling you, sign the papers. I'm going to Ranger School. And so he decided that I could go to Ranger School, and so that's the story of me going to Ranger School. I had done a lot of preparation, and I ended up going. I made it through on the first time, but I know a lot of people haven't heard this term, but eye of the tiger. I mean, I wanted it, and I just didn't want it with a little bit. I wanted it with like every fiber of my being, that I really, really wanted to go. And I wasn't going to stand in the way or have anybody stand in my way for me getting. I mean, I was like almost ready to buy the plane ticket and just show up at Ranger School and say, oh yeah, I'm going, right? and then just go. So it was a challenging school without a doubt, but sometimes you have to, the story is, you have to decide what you want to do, but you also have to do that introspection where you look at, how badly is it that I want to do what it is that I'm trying to do. As an aside, as I said, there were 4 of us. Of the 4 of us, 2 of us got slots and the other 2 did not. And one of them, I mean, all of us did well. I saw the other 2 guys, years later at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and those 2 other guys, they said that they, I asked them how they were doing, and they were fine. They had successful careers, but I think it was that intensity with which I wanted to go that got me the slot. Because the fact is it was embarrassing for the Field Artillery Schoolhouse to put forth names of people, and they would go for some short amount of time, and then they would wash out, or feign an injury. Oh, I hurt my arm, and then not go. But that was, I was like right at the very edge of just jumping to my feet. Sir, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, you're gonna sign that piece of paper. I am going to Ranger School. And that's really what they wanted. They wanted somebody who just didn't want to go to Ranger School, who was like, bent on going to Ranger School. It's like, no, I think one of the questions were, if your parents got deathly ill, would you leave Ranger School and try to go back? And I'm like, no, I'd just stay at Ranger School. My parents really weren't too happy when I told them about that part, but I was fully committed, and at least with Ranger School, you have to be fully committed to those types of events in your life.